Good morning. Yeah, they're not here, are they?
Really, nobody's here.
Yeah. Summertime.
And Dan Hardy wants
Really?
soccer
Soccer.
tryouts too.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Frank Lange. I am a happy member of the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, which is where you are this morning. I am the welcome man. My pleasure to say hello. Remind you to turn off your cell phones. All right? And say hello to a couple people in your neighborhood. Now, I will confess to watching the royal wedding yesterday morning. Any of you do that? I know, people did all over the world. I was thinking that it was really fun, and then after about an hour of the celebrities marching up, and I was beginning to think it was awfully common of me to, to be looking at this. And then the service began, and the Archbishop of Canterbury began the service with these words: God is love, and those who live in love live in God, and God lives in them. And the whole world heard that. The whole world heard that. God is love, and those who live in love live in God, and God lives in them. So would you please join me in the opening chant, followed by Spiritual Mind Treatment, our morning practitioner, Lori Greer.
Okay, so Karyl, you're going to help me lead this. This is a Karyl creation from Peter Pan, of course, right?
Our deepest prayer. Love is what we are made of. Love is what we belong to. Love is our deepest prayer.
So entering into this place of love, turning within to that place of infinite peace and infinite power, I recognize that there is only one life. And that one life is filled with love. Love is one of the names of God, the one that I call God, that is filled with that power and that presence that gives of itself infinitely into each part of its creation. And I am a part of that. I am one with that. I am all that it is, expressing uniquely and individually as me. And what I claim for myself and what I state for myself and what I know for myself, I know for each one here, for each one in the sound, within the sound of my voice and beyond. Each and every one of us, a unique, individualized expression of that infinite power, that infinite love, that infinite givingness. And so we live in this place of love. We come from love, we are expressing in every part of our lives as that love. And so living in this place, in this state of awareness right here and right now, I know that love is ever present. And so I claim and call forth for each one of us an experience of it in this service today in such a way that it unfolds and it demonstrates and it brings forth into our experience something unique for us, something magical, something powerful, something that guides us on our path in this life, that makes our experience so much more than we can even imagine. And knowing that we are here by divine appointment and that there are no mistakes, I know that this is the truth of what's happening right now in this very moment. And so I give thanks for that activity, for that expansion, for that shift and that opening in consciousness, for this realization to manifest in each life. And so I give thanks for this service today. I give thanks for the spoken word, for the receptivity, for the manifestation of this power and this presence and this love in each life. Releasing this prayer now into that creative process, into the law, I release and let go and step out of the way and allow for it to simply happen. And so it is.
Love is what we are made of. Love is what we belong to. Love is our deepest prayer.
Good morning. Okay, so today we have a new friend, Madhu Ansiani. I just met Madhu a few months ago, and I heard him perform, and I said, okay, he's got to come share his gift with you guys. Madhu is a native Bay Area sound healer, and 9 years ago when he was 23, he fell off a ladder and was a quadriplegic, and they said he would never walk again. And he started humming and singing, and using sound, and came back to life, came back to walking, came back to share his sound healing gifts with the world. And so it's going to be a bit of a boogie, so get ready to move around. Madhu Anziani.
Thank you so much for welcoming me here to your community. I'll turn the volume up. Is that better? Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here and be able to sing here in Corte, Madera. And I'd like to offer this song I've been singing for the last 7 or 8 years now. It's called Dreaming of Freedom. And just sit back and enjoy it. I'm going to layer some vocals here, and it's a chance for you to just receive. And you'll hear a lot of voices, so maybe at some point you want to close your eyes and take in the sound, because there's going to be many layers. So thank you.
Bhuvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhuvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhuvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhuvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhuvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhuvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhuvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhuvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhuvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhuvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat.
Isn't that amazing how technology
magnifies our energy? That is just so beautiful. Thank you, Madhu. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. And we have a member here of our membership team. And she has two people from our membership team. Good. They have information about our center, and I see some people who haven't been here in a long time, and I really welcome you back. If there are people here for the first time or back after a long time and you don't have one of these packets, in a minute you can just raise your hand. If we don't have you in our computer system, there's a blue card in there where you can give us your email. We never inundate you with emails, just a couple a week to let you know what's coming up and what happened. That's it. If you have questions about membership, there's a membership table right back there, and there will be someone there after the service to answer your questions. So right now, I would like to welcome everybody, and anyone who's here for the first time, just raise your hand. Yep, oh there, Madhu, thank you, welcome. So here we are, 100 years of science of mind. That's the theme for the whole year. So in relation to what I'm going to talk about today, what I want to say about this is that science of mind identified spiritual laws, put them into words. These spiritual laws always were working, and they were part of esoteric teachings, part of mystery schools in ancient times, so that not everybody knew them, but some people did. And they felt like magic when people worked them effectively. But what Science of Mind did was take these spiritual laws and describe and unpack them so that everybody can work with them. That's what we have given to the world. And so the theme for May is spiritual laws and how to use them. And if you are starting to use them and they work for you, sometimes it does really feel like magic. The laws, the spiritual laws, are, as an example, an analogy really, work like the law of gravity. The law of gravity always works on Earth. I mean, it's very predictable. It holds things to the Earth. And it always works on you, whether you understand it or not. So the law of gravity keeps you walking upright, straight, with your feet on the floor. It also will draw you to the earth if you jump off of a building. So it is a law that is always working, that you can learn. Most of us have learned how to use this to our advantage, and we don't go walking off of buildings usually. This is the way spiritual laws work as well. When we understand them, we can work with them and make our lives better. So the law that we're working with today is this one. It is done unto you as you believe. That's a very, very basic law of science of mind. And I have talked about it hundreds of times. And guess what? I am still learning about it myself. So Mary found this wonderful picture when she did the PowerPoint. And the bumblebee, you know, is not supposed to be able to fly, because it doesn't fly like an airplane flies. But he doesn't know that he's not supposed to fly. So he believes that he can fly, or she, whatever it is. And so it is done unto you as you believe is the way the creative law works. So we've had a big week in the news this week. You know, we've had the high school tragedy. We have had the royal wedding. And if this stuff works, it is everybody's thought that goes into creating our world. So every time each one of us thinks a higher thought than that which is out there, it elevates a little tiny bit the consciousness of all of creation. And so that's one of the ways that we want to use this law. The other thing that I want to say before I really launch into the talk is sort of a disclaimer. And this is true for anybody that you listen to that talks to you about spiritual truth, whether it is a minister up here with a microphone, or whether you go to a practitioner and a practitioner talks to you about spiritual principle, or whether somebody off the street talks to you about spiritual principle. All that is happening is that person is showing their consciousness. So I am speaking to you this morning from the very highest consciousness that I have, which is not as high as some people go. You know, like Madhu used these principles to heal himself of being a paraplegic, for goodness sakes. And a couple of the people that we read, Joe Dispenza, who's written a lot of books about consciousness, and Terry McBride, who's actually spoken from here, both of them had debilitating accidents where the doctors said, you will never walk again. And they're both vital men now, using spiritual principle. So what I'm going to say to you today is the title of the talk. And the title of the talk is, Working with the Law is Like Flying a Small Plane. Not only that, it's like flying a small plane in a gusty wind. So many of you know that I took flying lessons in my youth, long time ago. And I flew out of this little uncontrolled airport, which means it didn't have a tower. It didn't have anybody talking to me about how to land. It was a small airport kind of at the base of some mountains. And my lessons were in the afternoon. So the gusty winds picked up off of the mountains and would blow across the runway. And what you do when you are taking flying lessons is over and over and over and over and over and over again, you practice landing. because you have to be able to land in order to survive flying. And so in order to land, you have to get up. So you have these things where you go around and around the pattern. You take off, you fly around, you land, you take off, you fly around, and you land. And so the winds would fly across the runway. So as I was coming in, I would be blown away from the runway and then overcorrect, and then being blown away across the runway and overcorrect. And so I would come in like this. And my instructor said, I don't know how you catch the runway on a pass over it. You know, but I'm here to tell you about it. So that's what flying in a small plane in a gusty wind is like. Before I go on and make this analogy, I want to draw your attention to the wonderful altar that was done by the Frosts today. And this is like a little museum piece of flying in a little airplane. You know, they've got some topographical maps here, and they've got some binoculars, and they've got an old-fashioned camera, and they've got a pile of books here, which are spiritual laws, and this little airplane that is just an amazing and beautiful altar for taking a trip with spiritual laws or in a small airplane. So thank you, Karen, Bridgit, and Randy. So working with the law is like flying in a small airplane in three ways. First of all, I would say both are imprecise activities, at least for me. I have not prayed for myself or for another for specific conditions. I have prayed for a better life experience. So even when I had cancer and I was scared of dying, many things kept me on the planet, but one of the things was I mostly prayed to be able to take care of my children. And so I kind of skipped over that whole cancer thing and said, I want to take care of my children. And I got to. So the analogy is about flying is that I never came in a straight line. I was always looping, and or at least swaying. So I believe in my consciousness that treating and praying for a state of mind or a state of being is what I am best at. And that's what people come to me for. Other practitioners do something else, but this is me giving this talk, and so I'm saying, in my mind, it's an imprecise activity. However, skill builds over time. Now, maybe even my instructor would not be able to bring that little airplane in straight and level, but he could do a much better job than me. And as I have practiced praying and working with the law, it is done unto me as I believe, and it is done unto you as you believe. Over years, I have become more effective. Then lastly is, any landing is a good, just like any approximation of answered prayer is good. You get a little bit better and your prayer is revised. You get a little bit better on landing and they're not quite so bumpy. But any landing is good, and any answer to prayer in the right direction is good. So the actual trick, if there's a trick to this magic, is to focus on how you would feel if your prayer were going to be answered. How would you feel with this new reality around you? How would you feel living in a different mindset? That is what prayer is really about, and that's how to work with this effectively. So back to the B here, this is what we're after. Think about your desired state until nothing else seems real. Whether you are literally doing a physical healing that seems miraculous, or whether you're finding your perfect mate, or whether you are treating that your grandchildren are going to, follow that straight path, whatever that is, if you think about the desired state, how you would feel, that is exactly how you work effectively with the law. And so you let nothing overwhelm your desired state. Even if reality looks way opposite from what you want, what you do is you manufacture inside of you the desired state. So I haven't told this story in a long time because it happened long ago. It happened like 35 years ago. It was the first example in my life of anybody finding a mate in social media. And this is when there were personal ads, printed personal ads. So this friend of mine wanted to find her perfect mate. And she did a lot of things to create the state for her. Like she cleared out half of her closets because she knew that her man needed closet room. She set an extra plate at dinner because, of course, she wouldn't be eating alone. And she kind of set up this bill-paying system where she would imaginarily talk to this husband of hers who was not there, but she felt like she was paying bills in tandem. So what happened, and this is the idea of not praying for absolute conditions. This person had a couple of big dogs, and the dogs escaped. And so she wrote an ad in the paper about the lost dogs. She didn't take the paper. So she bought the paper where her ad was supposed to be in. And right beside her dog ad was this ad from this gentleman who said, I am looking for this and this and this and this. And if this is of interest to you, perhaps we can meet at the finest restaurant you can think of. So you can imagine that he got a whole lot of responses. One of them was my friend. They ended up getting married, and she had no trouble paying her bills after that, I am telling you what. And she had lots and lots and lots of closets for everybody's clothes, and it was the state of, she worked that law beautifully. And she worked it at a deeper level than conditions and details. She truly worked on her state of being. And what this means is that you literally change the person that you are with different expectations, with different visions for your life, and a different atmosphere on the inside. And when you change things on the inside, you act differently in the world. And when you act differently in the world responds to you differently. And all of this is automatic. And so it actually can feel like magic. So about a week ago, Paul and I went to hear Dean Radin at a bookstore in Petaluma. Dean Radin is the chief scientist at the Institute for Noetic Sciences just up the road. And this book is called Real Magic, and it's exactly using the law the way I'm telling you. So I'm going to read to you and tell you a story of how this worked for him and get how consistently and generally he used the law. So, early in the year of 2000, I was searching for office space for a research institute that a colleague and I were establishing. We called it the Boundary Institute because its mission was to scientifically explore the boundaries between mind and matter using the disciplines of physics, mathematics, and computer science. None of this says God in here, right? I love this. The dot-com craze was at its peak, and with new internet startups popping up all over Silicon Valley. As a result, office rental rates, already at astronomical levels, were continuing to rise. So they found this place in Los Altos, which is kind of near-ish to Silicon Valley. After moving furniture into a room that would become my office, I became curious about our neighbors. I found a directory sign listing the office suites. Most were ordinary businesses, but there was one named SciQuest, PSI, SciQuest. I took this as a delightful coincidence because our new institute was also sort of SciQuest, namely Sci Research of the parapsychological kind. There are only a handful of Sci Research facilities in the world, and we are all aware of each other. So I was certain that the Sci in SciQuest must have meant personnel service investigations or something like that. About a month later, I took a new route to walk to our office and noticed that the sign on the suite next door to ours, which I had noticed before, was SciQuest Research Labs. Now this was suddenly more interesting because what in the world was personnel service investigations doing with research? I checked every day for a couple of weeks, and finally someone was in the SciQuest Labs office. I tried the door. It was unlocked, so I entered and prepared to say hello to a man behind a desk. He looked up and his eyes widened as though he saw a ghost. I thought maybe he was startled, so I extended my hand and said, "Hello, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm your neighbor next door. My name is," but before I could finish, he managed to croak, "Dean Radin." I hesitated. "Yes," I replied cautiously, wondering how he knew who I was and if he was feeling okay. He said nothing. He just continued to stare at me. After an uncomfortable pause, I said, "I'm your neighbor next door. I just wanted to introduce myself and see what kind of work you do here." After a moment, the man replied, "I'm doing what you're doing." Confused, I asked, "What do you think I'm doing?" He replied, "Sci Research, parapsychology." Now it was my turn to stare dumbfounded. Unbeknownst to me or any of my colleagues around the world, here was another group engaged in the same research that we were, and they were located next door to our new offices. It turned out that the president of SciQuest not only was thoroughly familiar with Sci Research, but was specifically engaging in a magical practice to manifest me. He was using a Tibetan dream yoga technique which involves alternating 3-hour periods of sleeping and waking over the course of 24 hours. During the waking periods, he was intensely wishing for a sign that his business was on the right track, and one of those signs could be for me to show up somehow so I could join his board of directors. But he had no idea where I was or how to contact me. Hardly anyone at the time knew that I was living in Silicon Valley, and even fewer knew where our new institute was located. That's why, when I opened the door to John's lab that day, he was speechless. He couldn't tell if he was awake or dreaming. From his perspective, my appearance on his doorstep was literally an act of magic based on his clear, repeated affirmations. When he finally was able to tell me what was going on, I too felt seriously disoriented. We both had to sit down. And then it turns out that the work of visioning what Dean Radin was doing was almost perfectly manifested in the furniture of this guy's office. So both of them, in God's economy, manifested each other in perfect ways by using the creative law. So, I have so much more to tell you. So this is how we get into trouble. Do you love this? Waiting for the perfect woman. So first of all, I'm going to run through these quickly because you know these already. First of all, we get too detailed. We think that we have to tell God exactly how to do it and come up with every single condition. That is not how you do it. Remember, it's your state of being. Second, it's too broad. You ask for something too broad, like world peace, You know, how in the world are you ever going to manifest you can manifest your part of world peace. But we have to get to what Madhu was singing about, all people, all children, dreaming of freedom, all together. That's where our work is, talking other people into doing the work with us. We also get into trouble by being too shallow. This is, sorry, shallow is below the line there, but I could not watch the movie The Secret because I got so mad at that one part with the necklace. For God's sakes, this woman sees a necklace on a mannequin in a window and she wants it, and all of a sudden it's on her neck, and it's like, oh, please, that's not the way the law works. And you know, what is she doing praying for that stupid necklace that wasn't even pretty? So don't waste your time on silly things like that. Then the other way that we get in trouble is we think the world should change. And, you know, that's voodoo or that's spells or something. And although I like spells, it's not working with the law. Remember, what you do is change yourself from the inside out. And the last thing we do incorrectly is we become impatient. And when we become impatient, we say, oh, this stuff doesn't work. And then all the little hands, all the little God's hands that were making it for you in the unseen realm go, oh. They go on and work for somebody else. So at this point, I had planned to have a trio. Suzanne Rothpaul, do you have the words with you? All right. Your sisters are going to hear from me. The trio is not present, right? They were going to sing this song. Accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, latch on to the affirmative, and don't mess with Mr. In Between. We'll get them. I don't know anymore, but we'll get them, okay? Another time. But that's it. That's what you do. You latch onto the affirmative, you eliminate the negative, and you don't mess with Mr. In Between, okay? One way to do this effectively is with the practice of visioning. So we're going to go through this really quickly. Incorporate visioning into your work, because if this is done correctly, it helps you eliminate all those things that get you in trouble, like being too detailed, too broad, too shallow, and making the world change or think you can. So these are the questions you ask when you are visioning. What is the highest vision for whatever it is you're visioning for? And you really try to not answer that question yourself. So like for Dean Radin, he could be saying, wonder what my new offices are going to look like. That kind of thing. What's the highest vision for this new space? I mean, you can be that directive, but you don't get in there and try to do the decorating before the infinite mind has given you the picture. Next is, what is my part in welcoming this vision? In other words, what must I become? Because remember, all you ever change is you. And so if you want something else besides what you have to become the person that gets that. And that is change on the inside. And most of what we do when we change on the inside is we ask this question, and that is, what must I release? Because, as great teachers tell us, we are divine. All of us is divine. All we ever have to do is eliminate what isn't divine, what we've accepted as less than the perfect us. And let me tell you the realization that I had this week, and that is that life itself, through the passage of time, helps you release in order to manifest. Because remember I said, when I had cancer, all I ever did was pray that I could take care of my children? I was taking care of my children so much that I didn't have the bandwidth for my true love to show up. And now, through the passage of time, my child rearing has been released. They're cooked. You know, they're their own people. And so I realized that. You know, people would tell me all through the years, well, you always wanted kids more than you wanted a husband. Well, you know, now I had that. I had them. And I don't have grandbabies yet. And then, by then, Paul's going to be such a habit with me that he's just going to stick around right through the grandbabies. So that's what I learned this week, that the life passage helps us release. Then we ask, what must I embrace? And again, it's a belief, not a thing. What belief do I accept? What state of mind must I step into? And then we ask ourselves finally, is there anything else? Sometimes we have an urge to go another way to work. Sometimes we have an urge to put an ad in the newspaper. Sometimes or buy the newspaper because we didn't take it. And that is the ticket to the manifestation of our dreams. So working with the law, I didn't need to put this in, but I'll just go through it. Our spiritual practices are praying, which you get to do with the practitioners every time you want to. Meditate, and visioning is a way of meditating. And then reading great stuff like this, and I'm going to read something else to you today to close. Serving, like so many do. We cannot make our center without service. And then finally, giving. And I am so excited about giving away my belongings that if you want something, just come and see if I have it. And I'll try to remember to bring it next week. So, I'm going to conclude with something that I'm actually ready to release. This is a book from what was it, Paula? 1884. Dr. Chase's last and complete work on the last receipt book and household physician, which means it has recipes for everything and how to clean anything, and this is wanting to go to a new home. So I'm going to read you something that is tangentially related to the law. I kind of had to fit this in, but it's so fun that I want you to go with me on this, because there's a little tag at the end that sort of gets it right smack dab into the law again. So it's a stretch to be a spiritual lesson, but it's illustrative. So this is a recipe for English plum pudding, but they have this entire story ahead of the recipe. This is what's so great about this book. It was about the stormiest voyage I ever see. We left the Hook on November 5th, 1839 in a regular blow, and stuck worse weather off the banks of Newfoundland, and it got dirtier every mile we made. The old man was kind of gruff and anxious-like, and wasn't easy to manage. This ain't no Christmas story, and it ain't got no moral to it. I was second mate and knowed the captain pretty well, but he wasn't sociable. And the nearer we got to land, according to our dead reckoning, for we hadn't been able to take an observation, the more cross-grained he got. I was eating my supper on the 24th when the steward, he comes in and he says, "Captain, plum pudding tomorrow as usual, sir?" It wouldn't be polite in me to give what the captain replied, but the steward didn't mind. All that night and the next day, the 25th of December, it was howling storm, and the captain, he kept the deck. About 3 o'clock, Christmas Day dinner was ready, and a precious hard time it was to get that dinner from the galley to the cabin on account of the green seas that swept over the ship. The old man, after a bit, came down and he says, "Where's the pudding?" The steward, he came in just then as pale as a ghost, and says he, showing an empty dish, "Washed overboard, sir." It ain't necessary to repeat what their captain said. kind of how it looked, as if the old man had wanted to give himself some heart with that pudding, and now there wasn't none. I disremember whether it wasn't a passenger as said that providing we only reached port safe in such a gale, puddings was of no consequence. I guess the old man most bit his head off for interfering in the ship's regulations. Just then, the cook came into the cabin with a dish in his hand saying, "There's another pudding. I halved 'em." And he sawed a good-sized pudding down on the table. Then the old man kind of unbent and went for that pudding and cut it in big hunks, helping the passenger last with a kind of triumphant look. He hadn't swallowed more than a single bit. Then the first mate, he come running down and he says, "Lizard light on the starboard bow and weather brightening up." "How does she head?" "East by north." "Then give her full 3 points more northerly, sir, and the Lord be praised." And the captain, he swallowed his pudding in 3 gulps. And he was on deck saying, "I knowed the pudding would fetch it." And he left us. We was in Liverpool 3 days after that, though a ship that started the day before us from New York was never heard of. And this here is the receipt for that there pudding. And then there's the pudding recipe. So, what we say here, of course, is that he knowed the pudding would fetch it. That is the connection to spiritual principle. And I'm telling you, when you look for it, it's everywhere. Thank you. Dr. Chase's last and complete receipt book, who would like it? Come right up here, ma'am. There you go. Okay, yes, the practitioners, please surround us for the inner work now. Oh. Imagine, if you would, what this law looks like. There are, sometimes I think of angels just all around me saying, "What's next? What's next? What's next? What should we do next?" Sometimes I imagine little hands, the hands of the Maker, just saying, "Let me take this from the unformed substance and make it for you. What now? What now? What now?" That is the way it is. The law in action awaits our word. And our word is how I am. When you say that, I am filled with joy. I am filled with purpose. I and the children dream of freedom. Those divine qualities can be and are made for us in infinite variety. As it says, establish your word and it is made for you. From this moment on, let us only speak of what we want to manifest in our own lives and in the world. And in that way, we are effective co-creators with the infinite. And so it is.
Thank you so much, Reverend Karyl, for this discourse on the creative law. You guys are tapped in here. Really. And I was originally planning on offering a particular song, but after listening to the teachings, I know what song I'm supposed to sing now, to follow this thread of creating reality from within by vibrating our molecules in particular states to then create the external outcome. What I want to share really quickly is I remember throughout my life moments of victory, and we all have personal victories where we can look back and remember that energy, summon that energy to be present now. And so for me, when I think of my personal victory, I think of when I was completely paralyzed, didn't think I was going to be able to walk again. I didn't know how it would be possible. But I'll always remember the day when I was learning how to stand again. And my physical therapist looked at me in the eyes and said, "Are you ready to take a step?" And I started to cry. And when I was composed, I said yes. And I took my first step. And then I took another. It's the victory feeling. So I invite us to all remember those moments of victory each and every day. Let the body feel the feeling of victory. And maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to co-create the answer to all our prayers.
To all of the moments of victory that we have ever felt, we summon them now. We call out to all of our prayers that have ever been answered, we summon them now. We summon that feeling now. We call out to all of the moments of victory, past and present. We summon them now, we summon them now. Here we enter the fifth world of peace, and we take responsibility to manifest it now. We manifest it now, you bring me in to infinite interconnectedness. You bring me in to infinite interconnectedness. To all of the moments of victory that we have ever felt. We summon them now, we summon them now. We call out to all of our prayers that have ever been answered. We summon them now. We summon that feeling now. We call out to all of the moments of victory, past and present. We summon them now, we summon them now. Here we enter the fifth world of peace, and we take responsibility to manifest it now. We manifest it now. You bring me in to infinite interconnectedness. You bring me in to infinite interconnectedness. Breathing in, summon it now. Bring me in to infinite interconnectedness. You bring me in to infinite interconnectedness. With the seen and the unseen. To infinite seen and the unseen. With the 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 seen and the interconnectedness. With the seen and the unseen. 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 With the seen. We call out to all of our prayers that have ever been answered. We summon them now. We summon that feeling now. We call out to all of our moments of victory. With the sea, past and present. We summon them now, we summon them now. Here we enter the fifth world of peace. We take responsibility to manifest it now. We manifest it now. You bring me in to infinite interconnectedness. Breathe in and summon it now. Bring me in to infinite interconnectedness. The seen and the unseen. With the seen and the interconnectedness. The seen and the unseen. With the seen and the interconnectedness. The seen and the unseen. With the seen and the interconnectedness. The bring me to infinite interconnectedness. You bring me to
Would the ushers please come forward? So Madhu, thank you so much for reminding me of the elemental beauty of the human voice. So thank you. And Reverend Karyl, I have to ask you, did your friend who manifested her man, she get her dogs back?
I'm sure she did.
Yeah, okay, just shows where my mind goes. Any rate. Me and the dogs. Any rate.
You let the dogs out.
So I invite everyone to please hold your gift out, put it against your heart. If your heart is happy and full of love, put that in there. If your heart is hard but you feels cracked, just know that I believe it was Rumi who said that's where the light comes in. And fill that light into your gift. And with the ushers now, please receive the gift.
Spirit, guide my day, open my heart to live your way. Teach me to hear your voice, open my mind to the freedom of choice. Spirit, guide my day, open my heart to live your way. Teach me, hear your voice, open my mind to the freedom of choice. Spirit, guide my day and open my heart to live your way. Teach me, hear your voice, open my mind to the freedom of choice.
Please speak with me. This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world, living in love, one heart and one thought at a time. And so it is.
So our gratitude first, and I just want to thank Jim and Ceci for setting up most of the room this morning, and for Bob Gordon to do sound, and Ron on camera, Tom on streaming, Ceci on PowerPoint. A full table of wonderful practitioners this morning, ready to pray with you. And the altar by the Frosts, just such a beautiful altar. And Madera, our new friend, that was just amazing music. And then the membership team, be sure to get back there if you have any questions about membership. So the announcements today are, first of all, whoopsie, I'll do them. Yeah, Women's Spirit Rising. Lori is, you can stand up, Lori. Lori can talk to you about Women's Spirit Rising, and there's some cards on the activities table, the events table, that show you how to enroll. And that's a wonderful, wonderful 5-day workshop in the woods where there's camaraderie and fellowship and teaching and sweats and music and dancing and wonderful food for women. You have to be one of the lady types in order to go to Women's Spirit Rising. The video system that we have is really, really old, and many parts of it need replacing. And Tom has, do you want to say something, Tom, or did you just want money?
There is a new development that there may be a different way to go that's kind of in the line of our today's music. It's just in a totally different ballpark than what we're using now, which could be quite a bit better, quite a bit less expensive, or maybe similar. But we're still looking at upwards of $3,000. Probably $2,500 just replacing these. The other system could range anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500.
Wonderful.
So we're still looking at it. If that other applies, it's going to be a major improvement.
Wonderful. So there's a kind of a see-through box over here on the education table that would be wonderful for you to put a $2,500 check in. And that would be great. And of course, it's tax deductible. So that would be wonderful. Next, the tourist people. This is your last day if you're one of those tourist people to get your free birthday present from your practitioner. So just go over to the practitioner table and they will tell you how to do that. There's a wonderful workshop that is backed by popular demand. I believe, Leslie, this is your third time doing it. Is that correct? People love it. And so that is going to be June 10th, and the sign-up sheet is over here on the education table. And finally, I have 3 workshops that are coming up. The next one, the first one is going to be spoon bending. That's next week. It's full. But if you really, really thought, oh my gosh, I should have signed up, see me. Those of you who have signed up and are coming, bring some extra silverware. I have some, but that's what we need to bend it. And then the other 2 are Conscious Conclusions, which will be in July, and How to Download a Talk from Spirit. Those are sign-ups over on the education table. And I want to say one more thing about me concluding my time with you is that we can always stay in touch. This is a card that's on the events table. It's my new email address and some of the things that are coming up for me in the future. So I want to keep in touch with you. Please pick one of these up if you would like to stay in touch with me. And so my blessing for you today, my darlings, is for you to practice, practice, practice with the positive use of the law, knowing that the universe supports you and Spirit is always your guide. And so now, would you please stand for the affirmation and closing song? So right up here with me, I use my divine birthright to co-create my life to be powerful, positive, and purposeful. I discipline myself to apply spiritual practices until the desired changes in myself through the right use of the creative law. I am effective and the law is all powerful. So be it now and forevermore. Prayer for peace. Wherever I go, peace goes with me. I feel peace inside. In every breath, peace abides. And I know the joy of peace. And I choose victories. Every moment, love wakes up, and peace is every step.